What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So with the 5 Fates of Komi update coming on a couple weeks, we'll be having the Pet Rework Part 2. And I thought it would be fun to go over what some of these pets in Warframe do right now, and we can see how much more powerful they'll be once this update comes out. So yeah, just be doing a quick overview of some of the pets that nobody really uses, including me. In Warframe, we can maybe speculate on which ones will get buffed, and which ones will maybe get nerfed, because as far as we know, Smita is still getting nerfed off of that quote from October of 2023 that we still have, that the lead developers made. So let's get right into it. But before we do, make sure to sub this channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads, build videos, news videos, discussion videos, farming guides, all that kind of stuff. You're in the right place for Warframe content. Alright, let's get right into it. And again, guys, there is no actual information on what is being changed. I'm going over what we currently have in-game to maybe give us some ideas of what to be looking out for this new update. And yeah, it will also be Sentinel weapons too, so I might go over some of the Sentinel weapons here as well. Alright, so let's start off with some of the companions that people use a lot of the time. We'll start off with my favorite. It's actually like 50% plus usage on my profile. It's going to be the Sunika. This is the only thing that we know is probably going to actually get nerfed in the Pets 2.0 rework, and this is a Vampire Smita hybrid, so it's the appearance of a Vampire Vasca cat, but the abilities of a Smita cat, and yes, you could actually get that through, like, pet combination and stuff like that. So what is DE going to probably nerf about your boy Smita Count Kirby? It's going to be the ability Charm. This is a RNG buff to proc, and one of the buffs it can give you is double up loot and XP. That doubled up loot and XP buff can stack on top of itself for Quadra XP and Quadra loot. So that's probably what they want to remove, and that's what they were like saying they're going to nerf probably. So beyond that, what does the Smita do? It has a bunch of other RNG buffs it can provide to you, such as getting guaranteed orange crits, infinite energy, and some other stuff that's not really as important. The other ability that no one really uses on Smita is called Mischief, and it will allow the Smita cat to become invisible for 9 seconds, and it will make another decoy. It's just not really worth the mod slot, honestly, so we don't really use this that much. But yeah, I'm saying if they're going to be nerfing this charm ability, I want some buffs to Mischief, I want some buffs to the other charm buffs, I want buffs to things that are not the doubling of loot, because this is still one of the most popular companions in the game by very far to a lot of farming players, and if they're getting rid of the farming ability, I need some compensation, seriously. Okay, so that's going to be the one of the most popular companions. We also have the VERLOS and the Nautilus, but I think a lot of you guys know what this does, because this is brand new, but basically it groups enemies up. And it also is a Railjack companion too. It can actually fix your Railjack ship if you have that ability equipped. Auto Omni. So yeah, this thing is definitely not needed any buffs, no nerfs. They might nerf it because it's really good. But yeah, I think that this thing is actually great. It has lots of flexibility. There's lots of bond mods you can throw into Momentous Bond, Reinforced Bond, all that kind of stuff. This should be the poster child of how good these upcoming companion changes should be, guys. A companion that is so powerful and good, it is a unique choice that you actually swap to depending on the situation. There's multiple builds for it too. Equilibrium support build, full support build, double bond DPS build with reinforced and tenacious. Every companion in the game should be this level of flexibility and power after this change, if you ask me. So we've gone over a couple of the good ones. Let's start going over some of the bad companions, or at least what I would call bad companions compared to the grand scheme of things in this game. Let's start off with one of the, basically I would call it a starter Sentinel here, be the TAXON. They just give this to you for free, basically for being a junction really early game, and you can tell after you read what these abilities do, they're pretty weak. And that might be part of why DE doesn't want to like overly buff this thing, but just going over what it actually does. Molecular Conversion. Blast enemy within 10 meters, converting 200 damage into shields for the Warframe. When you're low-level star chart, it's actually pretty good, but once you start getting later game, that 200 shields doesn't really do much. And it's just not really a super phenomenal ability, especially because we have things like Guardian that give you your entire shield, and yeah, that 200 damage ain't really doing a whole lot for us, because 200 shields is not even enough for a maximum shield gain. So yeah, this is one that, now they could be careful with how much they buff it, because again, they give this to you for free just for beating like some junctions. So we'll see about that, but as far as I'm concerned, this thing could definitely use a bit of a buff. Its main ability is weaker than a normal, like, universal robotic mod. So that's not good. Definitely not good having that weak of a base ability. So TAXON, I'm saying maybe give it a full shield, a guaranteed full shield gate, or maybe make the blast damage higher. I don't know what they're going to exactly do with this, but this is a great example of a Sentinel that only beginners are really using, because there are better versions of it later game. And there's not even a prime version of this either, so yeah. And that being said as well, for the TAXON's weapon, which is, what is that thing even called? The Atrax. This thing's in need of buff too, because we're looking at the VERLOS Prime. The VERLOS Prime is just a straight up better version of this. And when I say better, I'm not exaggerating. Like look at this damage difference. 5 base damage on the Atrax versus 32 base damage on the VERLOS Prime. We got 7 times the crit chance. We got 12 times the fire. Is that even right? 12 times the fire rate? So as you can see, it's a lot stronger. And we also have, oh, forgot about this, 12 times the status chance too. So yeah, this is probably a good example of weapons that will be getting a buff because there are just literally no reason to run it unless you want 20 more magazine, but you have, you know, like less than 10% of the fire rate of the other one. So yeah, that's a great example right there. The TAXON and the Cryotra, I think it's called, or the, yeah, that thing, the terrible ice gun. Cryotra, I think. No, the Atrax. There's so many terrible ice guns. Atrax, this could definitely be getting a buff. It's so terrible right now. Moving on to another Sentinel that people don't really use as much. You know, people do use Shade. I'm not going to, like, make fun of Shade, but I think the Invisible Dog's better. Let's go over Oxalis instead. So Oxalis is going to be basically the open world fishing companion. Its abilities are not combat focused. It is actually like open world focused. So we got the ability of Botanist. Oxalis will scan plants over 50 meters for 2 seconds, consumes Codex scanner charges, and also reveal hotspots while fishing, and applies luminous dye to fishing hotspots. So as you can see, none of these abilities are combat focused. This is a companion based on basically farming. So farming open world stuff for that matter too. So none of this stuff's combat focused. Here's the question. How do they buff this to make this actually, you know, something that you're going to be using in non-open world farming missions? I don't think that there even is a way, really, because this is meant for open world farming missions. It's not meant for anything else. So this might be like kind of like the wall they're going to hit. It's like, well, this thing is extremely niche and specific to this one type of gameplay. If we make this thing like a combat sentinel, then, you know, are these farming, like, is Botanist going to start doing like heat procs, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they want to make this thing more viable, they need to change it entirely. Like, its functionality, its purpose in the game has to change entirely. So that's why I'm wondering if this one's going to even end up changing, because it's a freaking plant sentinel, dude. So I'm confused about this one. I don't even know what weapon this thing has. What is the weapon of this thing? The Moltron rifle. Okay, so yeah, again, too, there are lots of completely forgotten, terrible sentinel weapons in here that will be likely getting buffs. I mean, what are the stats on this thing? 5 total base damage, only impact and puncture. Decent enough crit, I guess. We have terrible stats. So I would say if you've been someone that's been opening up Sentinel Rivens because you've been wanting to get VERLOS Rivens to sell because of VERLOS Prime, maybe don't just like instantly delete all of them if you, I mean, you probably already have, but I'm expecting some of these terrible Sentinel weapons to get like, you know, big glow-ups. Like we're talking like the VERLOS Prime levels of glow-ups. Like 12 times the status, or 12 times the status chance of the other weapon. So things like the Moltron, I'm expecting like a 50% crit chance of this thing after it's done. You know, like a 3x multiplier. You know, make these stats a lot higher, make the base damage a lot higher, so it's actually worth using over the VERLOS. Because the VERLOS can kill things really easily. The other Sentinel weapons have a lot harder of a time. So this will be a very interesting one for sure. I don't know exactly what they're going to be doing with that. Now for Shade, I think Shade could definitely use some buffs, but I'm not too worried if Shade doesn't get that many buffs, because Ghost and Ambush are a pretty decent combination together. The only issue with Shade is I feel like the cloaking just happens when you don't want it to, and it will keep you invisible while you're using abilities and stuff. But again, the Invisible Kubrau does that stuff, but even better. You got Ambush mod. Once you lose invisibility, you get 240% weapon damage for 3 seconds. Again, this is very unreliable, and you just lose invis when you don't want to. So I don't really like this stuff at all. Maybe they'll change the behavior of this thing to make it more reliable when you want to go invis, basically. But yeah, if you're fighting like if you're using like a high fire rate weapon, you just basically lose invis instantly. So you have to use abilities to stay invis here. I'm excited to see what they do with this. Maybe increase the damage buff of Ambush by like 4 times or something like that. Make it potentially permanent uptime on that. And then the other stuff, like, kind of whatever. I mean, some people still like to use Shade. I just don't really like to use it. And as far as Shade's weapon, I believe it is still used, the Burst Laser Rifle. Actually, no, it's not. But I believe this is a pistol. So you can use pistol mods on this, and some pistol mods are pretty strong. So, yeah. They'll probably get some stat bumps. At least it got 12 base damage, unlike the other one that had 5. So, yeah. I would expect any prime Sentinel weapon that is bad, expect massive buffs, honestly. I think that's a fair blanket term there. Death Machine Rifle Prime got 7 base damage. I'm expecting that to go up. You know, VERLOS Prime got 32. It's so egregiously, it's like half the damage of a shotgun. The Sweeper Prime hopefully gets a buff. It's got really bad damage fall off and all that stuff, and they got 2-second reload too, so a lot of work needs to be done here. That's why they've been taking basically a year on this stuff, but yeah. I think it's enough of the Sentinels. Like, there are some Sentinels I didn't talk about here, like Death Cube and Worm. I'm expecting buffs on those and Helios too, but I don't think they'll be like, you know, game-changing, like massive reworks to like Worm and Death Cube, because Death Cube is still used sometimes. Now let's start talking about the things that definitely are more forgotten, and that's going to be some of these animal companions. There are a lot of animal companions in Warframe that are kind of hard to keep track of because there's just so many of them. For example, this Kubrow right here, this Chessa Kubrow. A lot of people don't even remember what these abilities do, but for the Chessa Kubrow, this is one that might actually get nerfed with the Sunika getting nerfed. Kubrow has a 45% chance to scavenge additional loot from a fallen enemy or container within 30 meters every 10 seconds. There are times this works on things that it probably shouldn't work on, which is good. But yeah, it is a loot ability from a dog, and if they're removing the loot ability from the cat, they'll probably remove the loot ability from the dog too. That is the main reason this thing exists, is just to give you additional loot. It is a very unreliable extra loot, but there are times this stacks on top of things that Sunika will not work with, so if you're not going to be using that, there's also the Neutralize mod. The Kubrow will bite the hand of an enemy within 10 meters, causing them to drop their weapon as a single target stun. So I think you can tell how underwhelming that actually is, a single target stun in Warframe 2024. So this one, if they end up nerfing this needs, I need the biggest buffs of all. This needs to be like an AoE Neutralize at least, because a lot of these abilities these companions have are just not useful to what we're doing. Is stunning one enemy useful? Probably doesn't even go through Overguard? Of course not. There are like 20 enemies on screen a lot of the time. And things like this are based, like this was designed in like 2016, so yeah, they're going to be, I would expect the Neutralize mod to get completely reworked, honestly. And Retrieve, if it doesn't get nerfed, it will probably just, you know, hopefully stay the same. I really hope so. I hope this doesn't get nerfed either, to be honest. But yeah, Chessa Kubrow, a acceptable companion I use sometimes, but not strong enough to be meta to anyone out there. Moving on to another Kubrow we got here. We got another Forgotten Kubrow. I don't even know which one this is abilities-wise. Looks like it is the Sunika Kubrow. Now, the abilities of this one, we got the Savagery ability, allowing the Kubrow to do a finisher attack at an enemy, and the Unleashed ability. The Kubrow will grab a VIP target within 35 meters, force them to the ground. This is pretty much the exact same thing as the previous one. A single target stun ability in Warframe 2024. Must I say any more? No one needs that. At all. And the other ability, Savagery, allows the Kubrow to do finisher attacks. I have seen some pretty decent hits from a finishing Kubrow, or whatever it's called, like a Sunika Kubrow Savagery. But let's be real here. It's pretty much another single target attack here. Anything single target has got to go. So both of these abilities should be fully reworked, in my opinion. And Sunika Kubrow probably going to get a rework, honestly. So yeah, keep an eye out for Sunika Kubrow getting a full rework, because those abilities are really, really outdated. And I never use the Sunika Kubrow at all. Panzer Vulpaphyla is actually pretty good to go, so I'm expecting things to be on the power level of this after these changes. For MOAs, they do have their use in the game. They're pretty versatile, but I expect some buffs to MOAs too. And if they do buff those Sentinel weapons like they're supposed to, that would indirectly buff MOAs a lot, because MOAs do use Sentinel weapons. So if you put the VERLOS on this guy, he'd be going pretty crazy. Now, as far as their abilities, it really depends on what kind of mission you're trying to run with your MOA. There is the Security Override MOA ability to let it auto-hack spy vaults for you, but some of the more universally good ones are going to be Stasis Field, making projectiles go slower nearby you. You can basically watch the rockets fly through the air. Also makes you take less damage. Pretty strong. You got Anti-Grav Grenade, making enemies fly in the air. You got Blast Shield, giving the MOA some overshields and some other stuff, so you can make the MOA even melee stuff. So there are some good abilities here, but the things about MOAs is that you know, they're not Smitas. They're not Smitas. They're not VERLOS. They're not Nautilus. And they also have they have a much worse hitbox than Sentinels. They will basically stand in front of an enemy and get shot at, whereas a Sentinel is flying above you, a little bit easier, just like, you know, move it out of the way. MOAs like to stand their ground and fight high-level enemies a lot, and that gets them killed quite often too. At least we don't have to revive them anymore. But yeah, plenty of good MOA abilities. Lots of versatility there, but at the same time, their giant hitbox and their nature of attacking high-level Eximus when they don't really have the damage to back it up does get them killed quite often. Now, as far as some of these other companions, like animal companions, there are completely forgotten ones like the Evasion Vulpaphyla. I don't even know what it's called, the Sly Vulpaphyla. This has extremely niche uses, like giving Zaku some more evasion, because just like the Shade and the Invisible Dog, this will stay active while you use abilities to kill things, but if you fire a gun, you lose it. This right here, it does what it's supposed to do. It gives you evasion, but is evasion actually useful in Warframe? Pretty much no, it's not. So you're bringing a companion that doesn't do anything actually important, and then its effect that it's giving you is not even a effect that is reliable, because it's 40% evasion, and if you fire a gun, you lose it. So, yeah, I'm expecting a rework on this one, too. This was made in, like, 2020-ish, so these could definitely get reworked, and then the Slide Devolution is, like, the same thing, but it just makes it go into a larval form, giving you... Oh, you only get 20% evasion with this one. Okay, well, yeah, this one's definitely going to get reworked, because you never see someone use this. It's very niche in the first place. And that goes for the other Vulpaphyla. The funny thing is that, I'm going to call that one niche, but the other Vulpaphyla is 10 times worse than that one, so... Yeah, I don't even know what that one's called, but we got the Crescent Vulpaphyla. This is probably one of the worst companions of the whole game right here. This thing, its ability lies to you. Charges an enemy, dealing 200 damage and stunning them for 8 seconds, lifting them for 8 seconds. The lift lasts for about 2 seconds, guys. It says the stun is much longer than it actually is. Damage amplified against a lift enemy for 100%. Yeah, they're only lifted for 3 seconds, so you better instantly do it. And also, you can't control when it's going to charge at things. It's just really, really bad, so... I am expecting both of those Vulpaphylas I just talked about to have full rework. So, the Evasion Vulpaphyla, it might still have evasion, but I'm expecting like the damage and stuff, and the ability of it to be completely reworked. And this thing, I think going back to the drawing board might be the better call on this guy, because this guy's really bad. That's his ability. There's your 2-second lifted status. I don't see any 8 seconds here, DE, so that's what it does. It's another single target ability in a non-single target game, a horde shooter. So, yeah, Crescent Vulpaphyla. Complete garbage. I think it's actually considered more rare than a Panzer Vulpaphyla, funny enough, too. So yeah, that one's going to need a full rework pile. Hopefully you've been working on that one pretty well. Okay, so as far as some of these other Kubrows that probably don't need a full rework, you have the Digging Kubrow, the one that gives you energy orbs. I don't even know the name of it. It is the Shaasa Kubrow. Now, this one is actually used by some players, and I actually don't mind it. This one is it actually has pretty good AI, too. It will check. So basically, the dog checks what in your inventory you need the most of. If you're low on energy, it will dig up energy. If you're low on ammo, it will dig up ammo and health orbs, too. That's pretty nice. It can also dig up credits, too, technically. So this is great. If everything was as reliable as this, we'd be having a lot more energy orbs, at least. And as far as the other ability of this thing, Ferocity, it's just another finisher attack for the Kubrow. So expect this ability to get reworked, just like the other one. Is that the exact same... The other one is called Savagery, actually. So it looks like Savagery and Ferocity are the same mod, but for different types of Kubrows. Okay. But yeah, that's that one. I don't expect this one to get buffed very much, but hey, I take it. 207% success chance sounds pretty good. And we got a couple more to go over here before we call it. But yeah, now here's the one I think that should get a full rework as well, because who is actually using Predasites in Warframe? I'll tell you what, not me. I actually fully formed out this Pharoh Prosite when these first came out with Deimos. And they've got plenty of different things they can do. But the nice thing about Predasites is they can actually run the mecha set just like a normal Kubrow. So lets you do AoE status procs. And with the way this thing works, Endoparasitic Vector puts out like a viral proc on the ground. This can actually do some pretty good AoE damage if you run the right type of stat stick. I'm going to go ahead and show it with no stat stick. Let's just go ahead and see how it does. But keep in mind, you can actually min-max thing for AoE damage pretty well. But the thing is, nobody runs it because it's a Predasite, and it doesn't really do anything that people can't do on their own already. So, let's see if he actually does it. Come on, dude, attack these heavy gunners. Okay, so that's what he does. He puts out like a viral proc on them. He is actually doing a little bit of damage, but yeah, if you equip a dog stat stick, like the Parish Prime, you can get lots and lots of status. And also, he marked that guy for dog, so that guy should be spreading procs in a nearby area once the enemy does die. So, they have uses, but they're not exciting enough for people to actually be equipping them, and it's kind of hard to tell what's actually doing most of the time. So yeah, Pharoh Prosite, the Visor Preite, and then whatever the other Predasite's called, the Magi Pyrite, those I'm expecting all those to get reworked. Like I said, good abilities, usable abilities, like this one gives you increased toxic damage on your weapons and stuff, but not exciting enough that people are going to actually be like, okay, I'm going to use the Predasite. But yeah, there is some fun to be had there if you do want to try that. Yeah, that's the Pharoh Prosite. There is the Visor Preite. What does this one actually do? The other one gives viral procs. This one gives, I think, like a blinding thing. Yeah, every 5 seconds, fire acidic spittle that will blind enemy and do corrosive procs to them. Another single target ability, guys. Another single target ability. A single target ability is everywhere I go. This one at least has an AoE heal. Release a trail of spores every 8 seconds. It will heal companions and its allies for 300 health over 5 seconds. This works on Necromechs. It's one of the only heals in the game that works on Necromechs. That's pretty much all this thing has going for it. So, the last one, I don't even know. Yeah, hunting sucks. I think you could kind of tell what I was thinking when I made this one. This one's got paralytic spores. Charging enemy within 30 meters, dealing 160 damage, releasing spores that stun enemies within 60 meters for 3 seconds, leave open to finisher attacks. The other ability, it will do a finisher that deals 200% finisher damage and affects a target with a virus that will grow volatile pustules that react to damage. This one's actually pretty useful, but way too weird to actually be used by anyone out there. So, yeah, you got a lot of stuff over here. Now, again, those abilities are interesting, just not exciting enough that people are going to be actually using them. So I'm expecting big rework buffs to all the Predasites. I'm expecting big rework buffs and changes to some of those, like basically to a lot of the weapons. TAXON I can see getting a rework too because it is just so underwhelming compared to other things. But again, it is a starter companion, so maybe D doesn't want to put too much power in the hands of new players and all that with these companions. So either way, let me know how you guys feel about this, what you're predicting down below. We don't have the release date for the update yet, but they will be releasing that in about 10 days, and I'll be covering it live. So come on, sub the live stream if you want to check that out, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Peace.